It's the Blue Vote Cafe, a little bit of wonkish, a whole lot of fun. I'm David Schellenberg along with Rachel Oyster. We're the co-chairs for Democrats Abroad in Canada's capital region of Ottawa. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, David. We start laughing right away.
I know.
Shall we talk about Ottawa weather again?
Ottawa weather, Winnipeg weather. I was talking to family back in Winnipeg, and the temperature over there is minus 30, which it doesn't matter if that's Fahrenheit or Celsius. It's minus 30.
Basically the same. Yep.
Yeah, and it's that classic era of just cold. And today we're recording this on a significant day. It is Blue Monday, so the saddest day of the year. Apparently, that point between fall and spring when we're all at our most depressed.
But here in Ottawa, the canal is open for skating,
and it's very bumpy.
I have not been out yet. I feared it might be bumpy.
Yes, because we had that weird warm day, and everything sort of got.
And they closed it, and they had to wait till it was cold again.
Yep, and it's an interesting debate. This is way off topic from anything that has anything to do with the Blue Vote Cafe. But, they reopened the canal on Saturday and Sunday just because it was the weekend. So there seems to be a general feeling that it wasn't ready to reopen yet. It was just cold. And even though it was really bumpy, everybody was out. And I got to say, on Sunday, the canal was packed. It's just a couple of blocks from where I live. And it warmed my heart to see so many people out. Enjoying
I had a friend who said if you go out today on Sunday, same day, you won't see the ice.
No, it's incredible.
It's covered with people, which is one of the lovely aspects of it, even when it's not great skating.
Yeah, exactly. Who's with us today, Rachel?
Today, we are joined by Terry Watkins, a fellow Democrats Abroad member I've been wanting to have join us for a while. So welcome, Terry.
Hello, and thank you for the invite.
It's really glad to have you. And you are starting tomorrow already in China.
Yes, today it is currently Tuesday morning.
Monday afternoon.
Right.
Thank you for getting up to talk to us. So our usual first question to our guests, especially our fellow DA members, is where in the world are you, which we've already revealed. But what took you to China and what keeps you there, and what state do you vote out of?
All right. So first to answer, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So I vote for Missouri. For specifically District 1, St. Louis. What brought me to China? So I'll kind of go a little bit of a short to long story.
Sure.
I studied abroad in Spain when I was in college for Spanish, and that's where I kind of caught the studying, going abroad bug. And after graduating in 2016, before graduating in 2016, I took a Chinese class, and I was like, oh my goodness, I love the language. I really like the food. I got a really good score. And so after that class, before I graduated, I said, I'm going to China. I got to at least, visit it, see what it's like at least once. Mm-hmm. So I took a detour. I first went to South America, to Chile. Studied,
But
and I taught English there.
CHI.
Yeah, CHI, right? Absolutely. I studied abroad. Not studied abroad. I taught English there through their government system. It's like this program for them to teach low income or necessary schools English. And while I was there, I applied for a job over in China. And originally, I felt they were going to put me into English teaching because that was the easiest thing. But I actually have a theater degree. And a company kind of scouted me out, and I was able to come over to China in 2017 as a theater teacher. So after staying for a lot longer, I got connected with the local DA chapter here. And
Amazing.
Okay.
So are you still teaching theater?
Absolutely, yes. So I stayed here. I told you I got here in 2017. I
Yeah.
stayed here teaching theater. But by I think it was my second or third year, I actually said, "Hey, I'm getting older. I should get my master's degree."
Ah.
So I actually I became a master's student over here at one of their universities, at Tsinghua University.
Hmm.
But ironically, guess what happened? It was 2020, and I was at like ground zero for COVID when it happened. So I got to see everything.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
it was
Spread around the
crazy.
world. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
no. So I felt like I was the spreader because what happened, it was just such bad luck. Oh my goodness. So my family, my aunt, she actually for the first time came to visit me,
Oh wow.
and it was on my like birthday week, and then right when she visited me, that's when COVID started spreading to Beijing, and
Oh
no one knew
no.
what was going on. They said, "Hey, start wearing masks." Then all of our restaurants closed and all the tourist spots closed. She wound up leaving early and
What?
kind of told me to leave early too.
Right.
And I left China and was locked out of the country for 3 years.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Because yeah, and I was still, and mind you, I was still a master's student. So immediately all of our classes got switched online.
Right.
And I was basically still in China, but out of China, getting my education.
Wow.
Eventually, things died down, but once their zero low tolerance policy came in, I got back in because I always said I'm not done with China. I still want to be there.
Right.
And I even kept in contact with, ironically, most of my my most ardent work on DA was when I was exiled in America because I was
Exiled.
able to do all this. I had so much free time because, we had to stay inside. So I was like, oh,
Exactly.
just make some
Exactly.
graphics and
Yeah.
midterms and stuff like that. Yeah.
That happened to a lot
So
of
I,
us.
Hmm.
Our work
right,
lives got
right, right.
sidelined, but there was DA needing so much support and available online. So,
Yeah. So I
Still
was
is.
online and yeah. So, long story short, I eventually got to come back and I still was a theater teacher. And yeah, so now I'm teaching drama at like a nice little training center company. Yeah. Yeah.
wow, that's so fascinating.
Did
And you're teaching in Mandarin.
No, no, no. In English, in English. In English, in English, in English. In fact, I hate to digress, but um, I'd say out of the East Asian giants, Japan, South Korea, and China is probably the best in terms of payment ratio because they'll pay you a lot. To if you're speaking English and you're from a country that is a native speaking English country, they're willing to pay a very good margin, and the cost of expenses are quite cheap, so you can save a lot of money. So
Wow.
yeah, it's very nice. It's a very nice situation if you're in your like 20s and 30s and kind of just want to work, but maybe not necessarily, you know, kind of a temporary thing. Just kind of gain money.
Yeah,
the
have
remarkable thing is
experienced
how
life
different that is from the other way around. If somebody from China was to come to the United States to teach Chinese.
Right. Well, I even tell them this, even by the pay ratio is still better. Um, if I was Chinese and I came to America to teach Chinese, I'm still making more
Oh yeah.
as a going to America than if I were to live in China. They really don't pay very high Chinese labor
Mhm.
for I mean that's just I hate to get into like specifics here, but like hey, you know what, why not?
Yeah.
um uh you'd think that labor policy in America is bad, and in many regards there are holes compared to like our European or Canadian counterparts, but Never have I missed American labor protections and payment protections in living in China.
Right.
Like Chinese people are not paid remotely what their worth is work. It's very underpaid. But I mean, the cost of living expenses is significantly lower than what it is in America. But I'm making maybe about 3 times to 4 times as much of a Chinese worker with the same pedigree.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
But I'm just curious.
I mean, unless
the importance that it goes. I mean, people in China understand that they need to speak English. That's an important part of traveling around the world, success in the world. Chinese, the languages of China are growing rapidly as well. Do Americans understand how important that knowledge of that part of the world is?
Right. Well, I mean, I think that there are, like, when I was going to school, like I graduated Marquette University in like 2016. So when I was going to school, there was a growing population. Like I came to China because a lot more students were learning Chinese, like of my generation. Even my high school, I graduated 2012. Even my high school, they phased out their French program and replaced it with Chinese.
Oh, really?
So I know that there is, I know that there is I went to like a very small, St. Louis private school. But I know that there is an economic and social incentive that exists in America to learn Chinese. I don't know if it is as big or ubiquitous. I mean, English is still kind of king over here. If you go to a tier 1 city and you want to use global trade or global exploration, they still teach English. It's part of why my job here is so it's so highly paid. It's because I fit that niche in the market that they really desire. And let's be clear here. There's China does capitalism almost more aggressively than America does. And people get on me for saying that, and they don't call it capitalism. They call it socialism with Chinese characteristics. It's more of a political term, but dear God, they really unabashed market and capital incentives are so strong here. It's ridiculous in some ways. But yeah.
Interesting. But I'm also fascinated that it sounds like they valued your theater skills over your English skills.
I think it's more. No, I think it's definitely both. And it's less about my English skills. I'll say this. It's more about the fact that I am from what they consider like a good English speaking country. Right. So if you know anything about, I don't want to sound critical, but their English, how they value English is more classist than it is actual English. So if you come from there are 5 countries. If you come from the UK, Canada, US, Australia, and sometimes South Africa and New Zealand, they will make your visa process a lot easier because you come from a wealthy English-speaking country. But the government, as far as the government is concerned, and as far as the market is concerned, if you come from the other third of the world that speaks English natively, like parts of Africa, the Indian continent, yada, yada, yada. They don't necessarily, they're like, oh, maybe you don't speak English good. And maybe the visa process is good. They don't, the government, as well as Chinese culture in general, has yet to separate linguistics from ethnicity. Right. So, because in China, for them, it's like, well, if you speak Chinese, and you must be Chinese. But they don't quite. Sometimes I think the concept of like speaking English and being white isn't quite separate from them. Yeah. Right. And sometimes, and there is like, I don't want to call it systemic racism, but it is a sort of race. It's more of a systemic xenophobia, where if you're applying for a job, they still have things where it says, "Oh, looking for European teacher, looking for white teacher to speak English." Da
Wow.
da da da, and it's just very blatant. There is no protection about it. But most of the time, those jobs that are doing that aren't really good jobs to begin with. They just want to sell your face.
Yes,
But
yes.
it isn't so much. You kind of get here if you're here long enough. About 50% of the jobs aren't necessarily hiring these foreign teachers because they think that their skills are. It's more so they know that the parents that send their kids there want the aesthetic of a foreign looking teacher. They don't necessarily know if that teacher can speak English well. I've
Wow.
seen Eastern European teachers get jobs because they're tall, blonde haired, and blue eyed, but then their
Hmm.
accent sounds terrible, or like it goes vice versa. I get cushioned a lot because of my passport. I am an American citizen. I can argue this, but I have Caribbean friends, other Black African friends who are from the African diaspora,
Right.
and they face some pretty steep discrimination in some of these low tier jobs and may get paid several $100s less than me a month, simply because they're not from one of the 5 countries that China likes in terms
Wow.
of English. So it varies. It really varies.
So racism is a global phenomenon.
It is. It is. But I want to say that the racism here, it's not like I would not describe it the same way that you experience racism in North America.
Okay.
It is not. It feels more like sometimes benevolent ignorance, sometimes negligent ignorance.
Hmm.
People really don't. As far as me as a Black male of 32, people first see me. Their first sort of ignorant racism is to say, "Oh, Africa," because they have no concept of like, oh, being Black doesn't necessarily mean you're. They think
Right.
Black Africa. They don't think I could be from America. I could be from Canada. I could be from Latin America. They don't
Right.
have a good geographical knowledge,
Right.
and that's because they live in East Asia. They don't have a history of that population matriculating in their thing, and that's
Hmm.
fine. That thing. But then you kind of get to stuff where I have people who have been like my friends for years, and they'll say something to me offhanded like, "Oh, I just thought you were good at dancing because you're Black," or
Oh,
"Oh, I just thought you're good at singing because you're."
computers.
And
Yeah.
and I am, yeah, and I am good at dancing and I am good at singing, but it's not because I'm Black. I went to school for those things. I studied those things.
Right.
I was raised in the culture. Like it's like small benevolent racism. But then you
Right.
get the negative. You get the negative part where um you're looking for jobs, and half of the jobs are like and you're working in the education field, and half of the jobs are saying looking for European teacher, looking for white teacher, or they'll even say looking for a native speaking. And then you go up there, you say you're native speaking, you give them your resume, and then you take a video and they see that you're Black, and they'll be like, "Oh, we'll find someone else or whatever."
Yeah.
So, and they don't say that to you, but there is this sort of like, there's a little bit of a preference. And obviously, when you're in East Asia or Asia in general, they still have, I wouldn't call this racism, but it's a severe type of like tonal colorism where traditionally people with darker skin work outside and people with
Oh.
lighter skin are, wealthier. So even in Chinese, they say bai fu mei, which is like, a woman should be white skin and pretty. And so there is that beauty aesthetic. It's less so applied to men, so I get to escape that because I'm a guy. But I do know that their beauty standards tend to default towards lighter skin. Is there anti-blackness? Definitely. I do not think it's like in America, though. It's not like a systemic period of centuries of like stereotypes and weights.
Right.
I walk places. No one assumes that I'm going to steal something. No one assumes that I'm dangerous. There's not a stereotype of me being necessarily violent, but there are assumptions of like lower class. So China, as far as Chinese people are concerned, they may be like, oh, you're from a poor country. I kind of look down on you in that sense. But they do the same thing to people from the Philippines. They do the same thing for people from India. They do the same thing for people from Pakistan. So it really varies. I would say I don't feel racism here doesn't sting. It's more like a child first encountering you and just being curious. And sometimes it has like, I don't call racism positive, but sometimes they do like they treat you better positively because of their interests or whatnot. Like they love NBA, they love sports, they love music and stuff like that. So they may associate you with that.
Well, because you're good at those things, right? Basketball.
Yeah,
and music.
because you're good at those. Yeah, or they know about it. Like the moment I say I'm from America, they go like, "Oh, I love the NBA. I love all this." But yeah, so that's sort of where it comes with race. Yes, there is anti-blackness, but it's not the same as I would describe in the States.
And it's mixed in with other prejudices.
Yeah. I feel like it's more about country takes over color here. Yeah. It's really about where you're from.
Well, and I have some kind of what you're talking about, where I think some people confuse racism with surprise or I just didn't know, and there's people who lie.
And it's really,
but there's also people who just like didn't know, like I didn't know, so I had to do a double take.
It's really ignorance here. It's like I remember my first year here, I get into the taxi. And the first question is always, oh, where are you from? And I say, oh, what's your 美国人? And they're like, oh, really, America? And then they ask me like where my parents are from. And then I'm like, they're also American.
That's right.
And then I would have to I would say like, hey, do you know like American history of like slavery and like, what our country? Because over here, unless they go to college and are like kind of tertiary education, they have no idea that America is not like all blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. In fact, most Americans aren't blonde. Most Americans are like brunette, but they think, they have this image of America white and they don't know how multicultural is. They're surprised when I tell them a lot of Americans are Asian. Right. So it's just ignorance. It's just ignorance on their part. It's not really a thing of malice.
Right.
Now, there is a propaganda about us nationally, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yes, fair enough.
That's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
But you're also, because you spent time in Chile, you're also making me curious about how that compares.
So, yeah. I've actually had 3 continental experiences. For part of my master's degree and part of my undergrad degree, I studied in Spain for 5 months and I studied in Switzerland for 8 months. Wow. And so I have the European experience. And then I also was in Chile for 5 months. So I have the South American experience. Wow. And in South America, there is more parallels to the U.S. They do have a socialization of the Black diaspora existing outside of the context of Africa. But the socialization of blackness is very different from how America socializes. And that partially reflects how different the English colonize versus how the Spanish and the Portuguese colonize. So the Spanish and Portuguese from these like post-colonial states were less about segregation and more about hierarchical mixing. So yes, there is this preference for lighter skin, but there's less of this differentiation between you are black and I am white. It's more like we're all Chilean, we're all Colombian, but like, you know, I have more racial roots from this side and you have more racial roots from this side, but the nationality kind of stays the same. So when I was in Chile, I was in this a desert copper mining town called Calama, Antofagasta. And my school was basically the poorest in the city. And my students were actually from all parts of South America because it was a mining town. So it attracted a lot of families looking for work.
Yeah.
So a third of my students were like Chilean, which tended to be lighter skinned, more European Spanish mix. And then I had a lot of students from Colombia who happened to look like me. They were Black Colombians speaking Spanish. And then I had another third who were more Bolivian, who looked very indigenous, who looked like they were Native Americans, but, you know, and everyone speaking Spanish, but their cultures are mixing. The issues I had down there, less issues, is more like kids. A lot of the kids were huge consumers of American pop culture and hip hop culture.
Of course.
And I had to tell my students, hey, I'm black, but please don't call me the N-word and say the N-word and all this sort of stuff, because I had all this. And I had to tell them. And they really, I mean, and it came from this place of genuine love. It really did. It came from this place of like genuine love. But like, I'm this kind of church boy. Like in my family, none of us say it. And
no, they didn't understand the dynamite attached to it.
Yeah, they didn't understand it. And on one hand, I had students who were like Black Colombians, and I was saying like, okay, you may get away. You shouldn't say it. You may get away with it. And then I had students who were like more lighter skin, and I said like, if you said that up in the States, people get mad at you. Like you can't do all this. So I had conversations. It was such a weird. And it made very self-critical. On myself as well, because I had to reflect on like, you know, how my culture globally impacts the world in such invisible and non-visible ways. Yeah. So also they, you know, like my experience there, like a lot of my kids were pregnant or were already had kids. And we're like, it's like a 5th to a 6th of them in my classroom, I remember. But Chile has different standards on how they view teenage pregnancy. Like when I was working there, they didn't make abortion legal, but they also had very strict laws about childhood rights. So no matter whether you had a kid or not, the school could never kick you out. The school must provide care for every mother, every child under a certain age. Services were provided. So even if you were put into that sort of situation, your education was guaranteed because they considered that like a fundamental right. So they have a very, things change country to country, social atmosphere. So it was a very enlightening experience. But that was my experience in Chile.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's
So tell us, let's get into DA. How did you find DA?
So I first, it's actually good that I was talking about Chile. I first found DA in Chile.
Ah,
So I was in, um, this was my first time being out of the country needing to vote.
ah,
And because even though I had been in the country before in Spain, I didn't need to vote during my semester there.
right,
I had either already voted before I left or I voted right when I returned back.
right.
So this was unfortunately, like, I'm a huge Hillary Clinton fan.
Hmm.
Love her, love her, love her. I know some people disagree or not. And this was the year she ran and unfortunately didn't win the election against Trump, and kind of
Right,
all of our sorrows began.
right.
But
Yeah.
everything, collapsed afterwards.
Yes.
So I was, I was in. I was in Chile. I was looking for a way to vote back home and do this. And someone connected me to Democrats Abroad Chile. Now,
Hmm.
I was not like in the social group or not, but I registered to the website and they helped me process my ballot. I
Hmm.
never became a full member of like I don't even know if they have a country committee. I never became like a member of the country committee, but they helped me get all the information so I could send my ballot back. And I thought, wow, this organization was just so helpful in me making sure, because my fear was that um, I didn't do uh, I didn't vote. Like, and I was worried that I was going to be one of those people who sat out and allowed stuff for this to happen.
Mhm.
Right.
And I was just so. I remember when the election happened, I sent in my ballot, and I spent about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I was gut punched by her loss, but I spent weeks just worried that my ballot wasn't counted and that it wasn't in there. And
Right.
DA helped me send it and helped me clarify all this until I finally got confirmation from my own uh, local ballot office that they did receive it and it was
Oh,
counted. So that
great.
was off my conscience. Yeah. But that
Yes.
was my real thing. I was like, I do not want to be, and I was like 22, 23 at the time. So a lot of my peers were those kind of non-voter apathetic people. And
Right.
I just didn't want to be in that crowd. I hated all of that. I'm still very critical of that, even 10 years later. I'm 32
Hmm.
now, and I'm very critical. If you see my posts, I'm very critical of any apathy, any anti this, any that. I hate it. I just didn't want to be a part of it.
Right.
So that's sort of my first interaction with DA, and knowing how they helped me in Chile, it kind of gave me, like, once I, based myself in China, I was like, hey, I can kind of get involved here. Now, the difference between Chile and China is that China has, they don't use WhatsApp, they use WeChat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And WeChat
right.
is kind of their all encompassing ubiquitous app. And it's a lot more socially intuitive. Unfortunately, it's still under the peer view of, this country government isn't as nice as other country governments. So we have to avoid certain issues and a certain topic.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's not just foreign policy sometimes. I remember the Supreme Court struck down the Roe versus Wade, and in my country committee, we weren't able to talk about it on WeChat because China itself was going through its own population crisis, and we were afraid that talking about abortion issues might anger government censorship because
Right.
they may, like, we're not in a pro-America state or a friendly neighbor. We just have to be more careful here.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Have you actually
yeah,
seen that though? Where like the Great
yeah,
Firewall
yeah.
of China is sometimes I wonder if the legend is scarier than the
Oh,
reality is.
well, it's scarier. It's scarier than you think, and it's less scary than you think. It's a little bit of both. So,
Hmm.
my former chair, Liz Blackburn, she
Hmm.
actually lost her WeChat account, we think, due to some shenanigans by the state censorship or
Ah,
retaliation.
okay.
Hmm.
Um, also, but in virtue, I'm on a VPN. So, for example, right now, Zoom is sort of blocked. Google is blocked. YouTube is blocked. All these things are blocked in China, but I use a VPN daily
Right.
to get past all of that,
Right.
which is fine for the most part. But you need to have like a very good VPN.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get a good one. But then there comes this sort of information vacuum. So I've lived here for so long that I have a lot of Chinese friends, and then you realize that they have been kind of socialized and procured over long periods of time to follow state narratives. And this is what I think the Great Firewall is not. People need to rethink it, and people need to think in terms of human psychology, less about like, oh well, yeah, of course you can. If you want to get information outside of the firewall, it's not hard. But if you are a Chinese netizen, you've grown up in China, your first language is Chinese. All of the, you know, you're not reading English speaking media. You don't speak English as you're not learning English. Even if you have an inclination to believe that, hey, maybe the state narrative isn't as true, you're still not going to, be inclined to get all that information.
And you might
So
not
a lot
know
of times,
where or
yeah,
recognize
you
it
don't
when you
know
see it.
where or when you see it. So like you will be soft consuming like uh whatever the state. I really shouldn't say the state, whatever the party kind of gives you as sort of fact, and you'll fundamentally believe it's an objective truth, even when you're given an outsourced native English. I have a best friend. He's Chinese, but he's never been out, and he speaks very good English. But he'll say stuff to me about geopolitical affairs that I'm like, this is not true, but it's a Chinese state narrative, and then he'll think, oh well, anything counter, well, we present both sides and da 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 da, and I was like, no, it's the Great Firewall is not about foreigners. It's about making sure that the domestic population keeps in check. And it's doing wonders. So yeah. As far as other stuff like entertainment, most Chinese people know how to get away from the censorship. Like if they want to see an uncensored Game of Thrones, or they want to get a video game like Grand Theft Auto, GTA, all of these like violent and more sexual video games, they still have access to them. They get them through Hong Kong, they get them through Taiwan. But those sort of major issues, I remember coming. A great example. I remember I came back to China when they had just ended the zero COVID policy. And at that moment, if you were anybody, you had to be quarantined for like 2 weeks. And then I remember the moment I came in, because they basically did not phase out of COVID correctly, and it spread massively throughout the population, so much that it became like a super hot red zone. And Japan had a much better handle on their COVID spread. I believe this is early 2023, like January. So they had blacklisted people from China. They said, hey, if you're coming from China, you have to quarantine a little bit because it's kind of a red zone, and it was spreading. And Chinese media framed it as, oh, how dare they do this to us? They're so evil to us, and we don't do this to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And they were complaining that if they went over to Japan, they had to quarantine or they had restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I came in here, I was like, I wasn't allowed back in the country for 3 years, and you still have quarantine for people. They're not doing anything you didn't do. Like, in fact, it's lighter. So, like, you're doing the same thing, if not worse. Because at the time they still had those quarantine policies in for certain countries that were not wealthy countries, basically.
Right.
And I just like the hypocrisy here, but the population here doesn't really care about that. Like, they had this thing where, like, the Japanese did a nuclear waste dumping, and they were like, oh, they're polluting the water, they're killing everything, and it's like, you guys dump nuclear waste more times that's untreated than them all the time.
Right.
And that doesn't get reported. Like, nothing, the thing about here is that nothing that can be critical of state actions or state things is heavily touched on or reported. All media is kind of filtered and censored. The only time that something critical can be do it is if it's Chinese on Chinese. So, like, and only if it can be blamed on someone at a lower tier. Whenever it travels higher up, then it can only be blamed on someone who has lost favor with the guy in charge, who I won't say his name because I don't know what cameras are watching me now.
Right.
but you know, like, it is such a, I mean, and people here, some people here are very cognizant of it. They understand it's a flaw. And then, you know, my best friend, he thinks, oh, this is normal. Other countries do the same thing. I would get in back and forth with my coworkers trying to explain, like, how in America we're born and raised to say F the government and say F you to the president. Like, that's our blood. That's what we're supposed to do. Whether you like him or not, we're always supposed to have that freedom. And, you know, state propaganda here says, oh, well, in America, you get, they censor you for all this and censor you for that. And they'll put out anecdotal things from, like, Elon Musk or, you know, stuff that doesn't really make sense. And it's all a narrative. It's all it's kind of my one. It's one of my one frustrating points of living here is the lack of separation between private, public, and state lobby interests. It really creates a weird dichotomy that you don't see in other places.
Wow. Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Coming back, because we started with DA.
Right.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It was it was a great digression, but I'd love to hear more about. I mean, because it puts DA within a frame there, which is very different from the frame we have in Canada, and I'm sure very different from other. You know, each country has its own characteristics. So, I'd like to hear more about how you got involved with the leadership, what you've done within DA, and what that's like doing it in China.
Yeah. So, I think it was I got more involved in 2018, the year after.
Right.
And at first I just started as, you know, sort of this, like, busybody commenter. I believe, I was young. Mid-20s. I just wanted to mind my voice. And at the time we were going through that big 20-person primary where it was like Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, like all the big dogs. Everybody was, like, brawling out.
Exactly. Yep.
Buttigieg, you know, everybody was brawling out, you know. Yep. But everybody at the end of the day, everybody knew it was going to be Biden. We just didn't want to admit it yet. What happened was I became more talkative in the DA chat groups. And I remember getting involved in their Black History events. That's sort of how I got involved with DA.
Yeah. Nice.
They did, I believe it was Juneteenth, and I helped do like this online. I helped do this online meeting presentation where we did the history of Juneteenth and why it was significant. At the time, it was Senator Kamala Harris. It was another House representative, and then it was like Cory Booker, and they were trying to push it to be adopted as a full holiday. Trump was still in office. It wasn't adopted yet because there was still like some, negative pushback, and he's a racist and all that.
Right.
But, by the time Biden got in there, we finally got it in. So that's sort of how I got involved in the beginning. And then I stayed on to do Black History events. And I remember one of the years I did a Black poet per day. So this is where I would make a square canvas slide. I would find a poem, and I would put that poem in a design or decoration, and then every day we would send it out. I'd put the DA China logo on it, and we would send it out in our chat groups, and it would be a Black History poem, and then we say DA celebrates, yada, 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 and it would be about the message or the significance of that poem and what it meant. Nice. And then other significant years we would do that. So that's sort of how I started.
Cool.
Then I decided, hey, someone encouraged me to run on the board. I became a member at large. Now, at this point, when I became a member at large, I wasn't in China physically. It was the COVID years, and I was studying, so I was kind of out. But then they kind of changed the rules with DA, where it was like, hey, it's COVID, we understand.
Yeah.
As long as you're, I still had every intention of returning to China, and I was still studying as a student at a Chinese university.
Right.
So, I was still like a part of the chapter. I was still in the WeChat groups. Then I started doing more midterm work. So what I did was I would research who's running in what races we needed to win in the Senate. And I would make graphics on like, hey, we need to defend these states and we need to be offensive in these states. I would keep track of people for midterm elections for 2018 and onward. And states we need to win to, win back the House. And, call to actions. Like a lot of my work was just like graphic stuff and hosting meetings. With me in my chair, we did a 9/11 memorial event where we got online and talked about the significance of it. Back and forth, just events and stuff like that. It was very nice. Yeah.
You were eventually vice chair of China.
Oh, vice chair. Yeah. Sorry. That's what I was going to segue. Yeah. So I got back to China. And by the time I got back to China, they encouraged me to get a more active role. I decided to run for vice chair. And I got it. And I was very happy about it. I served my term.
Yeah.
We had a very excellent chair, Liz Blackburn. She's very close. She's kind of encouraged me to, be ride or die. I came into DA in China. We have very, I would say that the expat American community that comes to China has more sparse politics than maybe other parts of DA. It tends to be more on the far left range. So we have a lot of people who are more and I hope your listeners don't, be offended by this, more pro Bernie Sanders, pro populist, pro this. And, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm the opposite of that. I'm very Kamala Harris, Obama, Hillary Clinton type. I've had a lot of I wouldn't say positive interactions with some other people within the DA boards, because especially I'd say the worst period was kind of during the primary season of like 2018. And bad words were exchanged and stuff like that. But ultimately, as far as DA is concerned, I think that we're holding on. We're holding on. So yeah.
Oh, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like most Democratic state parties, we are a kind of grab bag of many different views, and
Yeah, many
we
different.
cover a whole spectrum.
We should be
Right,
able to have
right.
different views and opinions.
I agree.
That's what
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
the world
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
also we come to better decisions when we come at them from different perspectives. I think that's been
Right,
shown again and again. So, what are you
right.
doing now as a Democrats Abroad leader?
So, I mean, I've sort of taken it back. So I decided last time not to run on the official board. I still on occasion will contribute to like a graphic. Like I was going to talk to the board to see what they're going to do for Black History Month this year. And I attend committee meetings sometimes on and off. I've been trying to work with Global Black Caucus and make graphics for them.
Yes.
Make one on an occasion, but I really just try and chill. They're very good at recently. Their new chair has been very excellent. I love their board. They've been very good at communicating on getting out the voter registration day, all those sort of necessary things for China. I will say this: our country committee, because of the zero COVID policy, I think that we were one of the hardest hit in terms of membership and things. People are returning, people are coming back and things, but there was this great flight after China sort of closed its doors. So, and it's open, but the economy isn't the same as it used to be. So,
right. So you're building back.
Yeah, I think China
we're building
will be
back,
fine.
but I think everybody's building. Yeah.
I think so too.
I mean, Canada must be really nice because you just get whoever you want. Everyone's already there.
Oh, you would think. You would think, but it does not work that way.
I imagine. I was like, man, I'm so envious. I really am envious of like more like like North American, Latin American, and European, because from a China perspective, you guys have just so much more freedom to discuss certain things and talk about certain things. Like we really can't compare over here,
Yeah,
I
remember
you just don't talk about something.
There are certain things we talk about them, but we just don't talk about them in official DA groups.
Right.
So, or at least we don't talk about them on Chinese platforms that we use in our day to day. So, a good example would be like Kamala Harris came over to Asia for her mission to promote semiconductor chips in Korea and Vietnam and Japan and and all of this is sort of a way to contain China's economic overreach, right? And we can't talk about any of that. Like I would love to discuss how awesome she is for bringing back manufacturing back to the States, but because all of it deals with sort of this chip policy and it's kind of aimed sort of it can be interpreted as an aim against China interests. We just can't talk about it. We can't. I'm sure that in other countries, in DA policy is in general not to really go hard on geopolitical affairs, but you're still able to talk about stuff that's semi-positive, and we have to avoid even minor stuff like that. And it's a little frustrating sometimes.
Interesting. So, Terry, I also want to say you've had a birthday recently, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
Fell on a significant day. So do you want to tell us about that?
Well, MLK Day is, it's a I'm always about celebrating contributions of Black Americans within our nation. I'm very proud of his legacy. I'm very proud of what he represents. It is an honor to be born the same day he was born. As far as that significance, it means so much even more today with the president and the administration that we have.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need those reminders of those people who resisted and who were successful in times of crisis. I have every hope to take that with me, and I hope that people take MLK and what he represented in his message on toward for midterms. Midterms are going to be very big for us. I think that we're going to have hopefully a blue tsunami. I'm hoping that doesn't just trickle in the House, it also trickles in the Senate. I am a little worried. I saw something that there's this kind of faction within I don't really want to call them in the party, but they say they're in the party. Who, for instance, ICE to me is a big issue.
Yes.
And we know it's a big issue. I'm hoping that more can be done if we get control of Congress. But I want to caution people away from. It's sort of what I saw with when I was a protester in Black Lives Matter. And I'm not affiliated with Black Lives Matter, the organization, but just like the movement within the George Floyd protests.
Right.
And I saw a lot of people start relying more on sloganeering and over like actual pushes. We got a lot of people who said like defund the police, defund the police, defund the police, and it's like, well, now you're scaring that 1% to 2% of white people whose support we kind of needed, and we could have pushed for policies and stuff like that rather than addressing the thing. And I've already seen in my chat groups from people who I don't really care for in DA say things like, oh, we need to hold Schumer and Jeffries that are spineless. They need to say defund ICE and abolish ICE and da-da-da. And I'm like, we all know ICE is bad. I don't think anyone needs to I don't think we need to codify this push, though. I think we can use Republicans have already stepped their foot in some poop. Let's let them stew in it. Let's not find ways to cajole our own caucus into making statements or making slogans that may not necessarily be beneficial for their thing. So that's my only fear in midterms going forward is like, hey, let's show people how bad Republicans are. Let's not try and force the diversity of our caucus to necessarily label and slogan a certain standpoint until we know that we are securely in power. Once we're in power, do whatever you want, but we need to get power first is my sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, because that's sort of, I'm sorry, that's just been on my mind because I just saw this like terrible post in my DA chat group. And I was like, oh, Lord, I don't want to. This is defund the police all over again. I just don't want to go through that.
It's a good point because I felt much the same way when people were chanting so many slogans that, what do you mean defund the police? We're going to need the police in 2 months.
Right. And it was totally, and to me, to be honest, it was a very, no offense, it was just a very white, it's just a very, because the only people in my community who are chanting that are like very, very far, like very in like the revolutionary camp. But like a lot of our communities are like, hey, I want good police forces. We deal with crime too.
Yes,
we want,
absolutely.
we don't say get out. We just don't want them to kill us and make the problem worse. And we want accountability. That's not what we're saying. And then like a bunch of like, no offense, a certain faction of, those people come in and they're like, oh, we wanted to bring the guillotines, abolish prisons, do this, do that. I'm from I'm from Cori Bush's district. We got her out because of that. We were sick of stuff like that. So, we primaried her and we got her out. So it's just one of those things of like, hey, there's nuance to every moment. As much as there is a call for change, there is nuance. So what worked for Mandani in New York City was very different from Abigail Spanberger for the state of Virginia.
Absolutely.
And both of them won their races very well. They ran great campaigns, but they have completely different audiences and completely different methods. So we just need to mind. My thing is like, mind your business, stay in your lane. Let's all win together.
And keep the focus on the Republicans with their feet.
Keep the focus on the Republicans. Keep the focus on the Republicans.
Keep
Stop.
talking,
Like
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, like stop. Like we don't need to stab each other. We don't need to say, why aren't you doing this? Like, look, if the Republicans do something bad, attack the Republicans, please. Like, stop, we don't need this infighting is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Exactly. Terry, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Maybe I get another hour of sleep.
Go back to bed.
Yeah. Well, I have to get up anyway, but yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
If you live outside the U.S., please register with your voting state at votefromabroad.org every year. Do it now. To find all our episodes, go to democratsabroad.org and look for us in the drop-down menus. I'm Rachel Oikster with David Schellenberg in Ottawa, Canada. Thank you for listening to Democrats Abroad, the Blue Vote Cafe.